Hi, we continue our quest to learn Hebrew in the book of Jonah by reading the book of Jonah. So if you've been following this series, the last video we did was on pronominal suffixes. Pronominal suffixes are letters that are put at the end of a word in order to express maybe his or her or their, and they can put it right on the end of the word. We have one right here at the end of this line. The vav there at the end of alive. It's alive. It's alive. The alive, the vav here is him. So we've encountered L before. It means to. And then the vav is him, to him. So alive means to him. And the vav is a pronominal suffix. So what we're doing in this next stretch of videos, and Jonah 1:10, for example, is we are now going to try to conquer what are called the independent pronouns. These are the pronouns. A pronoun is something that stands in place of a noun, like he, she, it. We are trying to learn what are called independent pronouns. These are the ones that stand on their own. These are the ones like in English, like he or I, and they stand as their own word. And Hebrew has those too. We're going to encounter one that we're going to conquer in this video as well. We've already had some. We had ata, which means you, as a masculine singular, you I'm speaking to. And we've had ani and anaki, which mean I. So we're going to get he in this video. I think we may have seen it before, but we're going to nail it down and say, now you got to memorize it in this video. So let's go ahead and see if you can pronounce the Hebrew of that first line. And here's how I would pronounce it. Vayiru. This is interesting. Vayir. It might be vayira'u. I'm going to pronounce that as a vocal schwa. In fact, maybe that meteg there is saying, hey, this is a long vowel, which I knew Herkyod was a long vowel, but that implies that this would be a vocal schwa because you have long vowels in open syllables. So this is probably a vocal schwa. So it would be vayira'u. Vayira'u. When a shva follows a long syllable, it's typically a vocal schwa. So, vayira'u ha-anashim, the men. This is anashim, the men. Ha, hey, kamatz, it's compensatory lengthening. And maybe the meteg is telling us that there as well, saying, hey, there's something fishy going on here. We've got compensatory lengthening of it. Normally an article is hey patak doubling. But it tries to shoot the dagesh into the aleph and it ricochets off because it's guttural and makes the patak into a long kamatz. Not really. I don't know. I like that though. Ricochet, rabbit. So this is the, and then anashim is masculine plural, right? Here kyod mem is the masculine plural absolute ending. And so these are the men. We are men. And the men feared is what this is saying here. And they feared. That is, the men feared. Typical Hebrew order is verb first and then the subject, and that's what we have here. And they feared, that is, the men feared, and they feared a yir'ah gedolah. They feared a great fear. This is a Hebraism, to fear a great fear. They really feared. They were really afraid. It's intensive, right? You know, they were really afraid. They feared a great fear. Most translations, I think, today don't translate it quite so literally. But you now are a Hebrew expert, right? You can see it. So yir'ah is the noun fear, and then gedolah matches it. Remember, adjectives have to match in gender, number, and definiteness. Both of these are indefinite. A great fear. There's no article on them, so they agree in definiteness. The kamatz hey is what? What's the kamatz hey a sign of? Kamatz hey is a sign of feminine singular absolute, actually. So they both agree in gender, they're both feminine, and they both agree in number, they're both singular. And the men feared a great fear. Vayomaru, alive, and they said to him, that is, the sailors said to Jonah. We'll come back through these verses again and work on the verbs, but right now we're picking up nouns and adjectives and prepositions and pronouns. But a day is coming, saith the Shank, when we will go back through these verses and learn the verbs. Okay, so, and the men feared a great fear. And they said to him, they said, Ma zot, what's this? What is this? So ma is an interrogative. You might call it an interrogative pronoun if you want, but it's an interrogative. It's a question word. Ma. Ma. What's up, ma? What is zot? Zot we have encountered before as well, and I'm going to systematize the demonstrative pronouns soon enough. But zot is the feminine singular demonstrative pronoun. So why is it feminine? That's a good question. It has to be telling us about something that's feminine. Or just off. I don't know. That's a good question. Do some investigation. Maybe I'll come back in a later video and tell you the answer. But offhand, maybe I would have to go back to verse 9 to figure out why this is feminine. But what is this that you did? Asita. So this is the verb to do, asa, and the ta, as we will find out on our second sweep through, is you masculine singular. You did. What is this you did? For, and this is a parenthetical comment, ki is an important vocabulary word that you should tuck away. For, ki yada'u hanashim, ki, for they knew, the men knew that. So yada'u, yada is to know, and then ha anashim is again the men, same thing we saw up here, article, and then here yod mem is masculine plural. For the men knew that. What did they know? They knew milifnei Yahweh hu boreach ki hagid lahem. Okay? So what do you recognize here? You might recognize seri yod as a masculine plural construct. So I think we've done min. Min is the word for from, and it can suck onto the front of a word. The nun assimilates when no vowel separates. So the nun of min has been sucked into the lamed, and it's a doubled lamed because of the nun. So that the mem here represents the mem and the doubling represent from. And then panei is the face. La, is to. So from to the face of Yahweh, which we might translate as before Yahweh. For they knew that from Yahweh he was fleeing, is what it's saying here. They knew. It says, what's this? For they knew that he was fleeing from Yahweh. But you can analyze this word. It's from to the face of Yahweh, from before Yahweh. They knew he was fleeing from before Yahweh. So review here is the min and the lamed, and then the seri yod as a masculine plural construct. There's the name of God. And then here is another independent pronoun. So who is he? Who is he? So Hebrew is a language. I've said this before, although I've not expected you to know all of it yet. Hebrew is a language where who is he is she, me is who, and dog is fish. First is the Hebrew word and then the translation. It's a play on words. Of course, it wouldn't have been funny to them because they didn't know English. But it's funny to us because who is he? And he is she. But the one to know for this video is who. Who is the Hebrew word for he. And you can see it's pronounced who. The aleph is quiescent. It kind of disappears for the sake of pronunciation. For they knew from before Yahweh, he fleeing. This is a participle, an ing word, boreach. Barak means to, in this case, means to flee, and so boreach means he fleeing. They knew that from before Yahweh, he fleeing. For higid, he told lahem. Now, lahem you should be able to handle now, because hem is the pronominal suffix for them, right? So la, to, and hem, them, to them. So you already know that. You already know hem because it's a pronominal suffix we've already learned. So putting the verse all together, we have and, vav means and the men feared a great fear. And they said to him, that is to Jonah, what is this? that you did. For the men knew that from before Yahweh he was fleeing, for he told them. And that is Jonah 1:10 in Hebrew.